It is a delight to be back at ISP, back in what for me is home for a long part of my life. For 6 years I spent as high school principal before passing that baton to Mr. Shea, who is extraordinary. I admire him, I look up to him, learned from him. Mr. Curran, you remember him. When he left, he and I left ISP at the same time, our famous math teacher, football coach. He said, when you're a dolphin for life. So I embrace that. I feel I'm back in the land of the dolphin, or in the pool of the dolphins. So I feel a tremendous love and appreciation for this school and to be a part of this event. I remember when this event was born, the first time we did the Tedx, and extraordinary. I sat back and admired the initiative of those students, and I see that it's carried on year after year. And it's extraordinary. And it's about youth, and it's about leadership, and it's about, I really feel that in this generation of millennials, it's about doing something to fix what's wrong in the world and to do great things for this world and in this world. So when I left ISP, it was time for a change for me. It was time for me to look for a new project. It was time for me to cultivate some new things in myself and explore, as happens to all of us in our careers. There comes a time for a change. And my roots as an educator were in New York City public schools and inner city schools, working with disadvantaged kids, immigrant kids, kids who did not have an education of excellence available to them, really, and worked in some phenomenal schools back in New York. And then found my way into the international schools and found that the work here in schools like ISP and the other ones that I was in Thailand, in Spain, that work is so vital. But I was drawn back in the last year back to my roots as an educator a little bit, and feeling that I'd lived in Panama for 7 years and wanted to find a way to help with what I sensed was a big problem in Panamanian schools, and the schools that are the education that's available for the vast majority of our children. Sadly, I think for everyone sitting here, and I know for the ISP students that I used to work with, struggled with the idea that this education of excellence at ISP is not what's available for most kids in Panama, not by a long shot. So I've gotten involved in the last year or so, a little less than a year, with Enseña por Panamá, a new project, a startup NGO in Panama, but part of a global network, a very impressive global network. We're actually the 37th country. We were just formally made a partner in the organization of Teach for All, which is, we're all sort of the offspring, the grandchildren at this point, of Teach for America in the United States and Teach First in the UK. And now there are 37 programs around the world that are adhering to this model. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the model tonight. So the vision of our organization and our partner organizations is that one day an education of excellence will be available to all Panamanian children. That is a huge goal. And we're not close to that, but we're shooting for that. So how are we going to get there? Well, my sense is with Enseña por Panamá is that we need to be one organization and one particular effort amongst the efforts of many. I don't see us as the answer. We're one answer. And my belief as I research more and as I come to meet more people in this world in Panama dedicated to this, trying to address this problem, my sense is that we need to come at it from a lot of different angles. So our angle is largely about finding talent. We want to recruit talent and cultivate talent, young talent. We want to find the passionate, high-achieving Panamanian citizens, university graduates, college graduates, recently leaving school, 22, 23, up to 30 years old or so, who are high achievers, who are socially motivated, socially aware, socially motivated, who want things to be better, who want to be a part of addressing some of the problems in their land, in Panama. And young people who've demonstrated a capacity and a willingness to be leaders, who've been leaders in their universities or in their communities, and who have an inclination that even though I'm considering law or medicine or business, why not teaching? Why not? We want to attract them, recruit them, and train them in an intensive program of formación, in pedagogy and in leadership, how to be leaders in schools and in communities, but also how to be leaders in the classroom, in cultivating leadership in children, in helping kids say, Yeah, I have some issues, some concerns, some needs within my school and in my life and in my community that I want to address and help them build the skills to take that sort of active approach to looking at things going on in their own lives, through the classrooms, through science, through math, through lenguaje, through the classes that they'll teach. So we want these young people to become outstanding teachers through an intensive program of training and then intensive support. We support them throughout their time in the classrooms. And we're asking them for a commitment of 2 years. This is the model that was Teach for America, Teach First. It's the model of, it's a 2-year request, and then if so be it, you go on to law school or med school or business or what you go on to, that's fine. But we also think part of our mission is also to form alumni and to have alumni who stay in the trenches, so to speak, whether in the classroom or becoming school directors and school leaders, or developing their own innovative projects and their own NGOs. This is our hope, and it's based on something that we've seen happen. So essentially, that's what the organization is, and that's what we're going to try to do. My role in the organization is I'm the director of training and support, director de formación, and we're about to start. This is the first year for our program. In January, we have a 1-month intensive training for our first group of what's going to be 26 young teachers. And in February, they're in classrooms, in Chiriquí and in Panama, in up to 7 or 8 different schools. Some of them will be partnered together. So if we could go to the first slide. Some of the things that I'll talk about pretty quickly tonight. Our slideshow is in Spanish because most of the time we're presenting in Spanish. It's a lot easier for me to do this in English. Though at this point, I think podría hacerlo en español, pero un riesgo grande para mí. English is easier. So the challenge, our model and a theory of change, the global movement, which I've referred to a little bit already, advances, challenges, our priorities, a projection for our growth, and then just in sum, this education of excellence that we want for more kids in Panama. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about the problem. I've begun to sort of actively research and visit schools and do a lot of reading and a lot of thinking about what's wrong in education in this country. And in fairness, this is what's wrong in a lot of the world. But in honesty, Panama has a big problem. There's a dire need in this country. And that's true of a lot of countries, but I'm going to outline for you why I think it's maybe a bit more dire here. Statistics show us that 50% of children who reach 3rd grade don't know how to read and write. Really don't have the basic essential skills that a 3rd grader is supposed to have in reading and writing. That 4.4 years, that's in the indigenous comarcas, but that's the average number of years of schooling. So imagine a kindergartner starts schooling, and by 4th grade, they've left the system. By 4th grade, they're not in school anymore. That's the average kid. Some stay longer, but some stay not as long. In Panama Centro, that's not as dire a number, but that's a scary number. Illiteracy, not a terrible number, but also a concern. Next slide, please. These numbers come from Meduca, from the Ministry of Education. 240,000 students in pre-media y media, that's middle school and high school. 12.1% will desert, will leave the system before the end of that time. 7% repeat a grade at some point. On the right is the situation that we've all heard about. There's a tremendous problem here, as in many places, with young girls getting pregnant and leaving the system as early as 7th grade. So when I say to you the situation is dire in Panama, Panama's engaged in a few efforts to evaluate what's happening with students and evaluate our educational program. And one of those means is through the PISA. The PISA is the Program in International Students. When I say to you the situation is dire in Panama, Panama's engaged in a few efforts to evaluate what's happening with students and evaluate our educational program. And one of those means is through the PISA. The PISA is the Program in International Student Assessment, is an exam that 10th graders take. And a random selection of Panamanians participated in this exam in 2009. And Panama was 62nd out of 65 countries in the world that take the exam. At the top of that list, you see China and Korea, Finland, Singapore, Canada, New Zealand. Panama's one of the bottom 4 in what 10th graders know and can do and can demonstrate on this exam, which is obviously towards the very end of schooling. The CERCE is another United Nations, a UNESCO exam that's done regionally, just within Latin America, for 3rd and 6th graders, and Panama was in the bottom 25% of regional countries, that are neighbors, which are perhaps like countries, similar countries. Next slide. These are the numbers that I've been thinking about a lot lately. These numbers are slightly different from the Meduca numbers. These numbers come from a 2013 UNICEF report. So the first number says this is the percentage of children who are in elementary school. 97% of kids who are supposed to be in elementary are there. That's not a terrible number. None of us is probably alarmed by that number. It does make me wonder, where are those 3% that are not there? These are children, very young children who are not in school. But the next number starts to get worrisome for me, 69%. This is the percentage of students who are in premedia and media, that are in middle school and high school, that are between 6th and 12th grade. 70% of the kids who are meant to be there are there. 3 in 10 have left. Think about that at ISP. If you were in 6th grade and you watched your friends and you went with your friends through the rest of schooling, and 3 out of every 10 of them dropped out, said, no more school for me. I'm not doing well, I'm failing, or I need to work, or there's nothing in school that's happening for me that's leading me to sense that this is important in my life, that it's taking me somewhere. 3 in 10 have left the system. For university studies, less than half will matriculate. So now we've got our graduates from high school, and less than half of the students in this country will go to college. My sense is that if we went into an elementary classroom in any school in Panama and we talked to children, they would say, I'm going to go to college. My dream is I'm going to go to college. I bet it's a lot more than half saying I would like to go. I'm going to go. Only 46% are going. But then worse than that is the small number on the side. Only 15% actually graduate. So 15% of that 46%, we're talking about 7% or so of students at the age of 21, 22, 23, 24 years old. You guys look around at your friends, and those are all college graduates. In Panama, 7% have graduated from college. My sense is that when they get to college, there are a lot of factors in why are so few students graduating. I'm certain that one of the factors is the preparation for university-level studies. That just can't do it. I was not prepared for this. These numbers concern us. I think everyone here. Next slide, please. So, leadership. These numbers worry me too. These are also in this UNICEF report from 2013. In 2001, Panama invested 4.3% of its gross domestic product on education. Now, I think we all know in this room that between 2001 and 2010, these were years of tremendous economic growth in this country. Tremendous generation of wealth. But by 2010, we're spending 2.5% on education. I don't know what the number is today. I'm curious to know. But as Panama became a rich country, and Panama is considered a middle-income country, is a term that you hear a lot through the world of the UN and the different agencies, a middle-income country, but our education system is that of a poor country. And that hurts to say, and I'm from the US, I'm not from Panama, I love this country, I've lived here for many years, but this is a middle-income country that is acting like a poor country in terms of its educational system and spending. We're spending like our poor neighbors. I hope this number has changed. I would love to be able to present it to you. I don't have it. Next slide. So I've been talking a lot about the problem. My sense is better to talk about the problem because we're starting to really understand the problem. The solution is much more complicated. The solution is challenging. And our solution is one solution amongst many. But the circle is poor performance, low motivation, spinning in a cycle. Some of those points up there talk about teaching. Now, I have immense respect for teachers. I used to say that at ISP, my single contribution was all the great teachers that I hired. In fact, seeing Mr. Matisse again, I'm remembering the week in November several years ago when I got to hire Mr. Matisse and Mr. Adamson and his wife, Tammy Kreutz, in the same week. And I went out, I said, I've just got us the most amazing teachers to come to ISP. And they're still here contributing. These are phenomenal teachers. I want teachers like that in schools in Panama. We all do. But like many countries, this is not unique to Panama. Teachers are not paid very well. Teachers are not attracted or called to this profession. Who's out there saying, come and teach, this is a great profession. Come make a contribution. Teachers have low motivation. I have to say I've spent months now visiting schools in Panama, and it's one of the things that's breaking my heart is the number of times I go into a school and I go around a school and we visit classes and the teacher's not there, the kids are there alone. So, ¿dónde está la profesora? Ay, es que hoy no vino. Es normal. So, it happens a lot. We're here, we're good, we're the students, the teacher's not here today. Absenteeism, another issue. Low motivation, low pay, any number of problems going into this, right? Teachers are not evaluated. On the top end, what we've already talked about, desertion is high, repeated grades is high, low expectations from families and kids about what is an education going to get me? Why bother? What is this going to do for me? So these are the problems. Next slide, please. So our particular approach to changing things, and again, I've had no illusion that we, Enseña por Panama, we're going to revolutionize things in this country. We're going to completely change the course of education. No, we have to be one really powerful project, amongst others, that begin a bit more of a national conversation in this country about what is happening in schools. Why is an ISP education available for such a small number of kids? Why is there not more critical thinking and more rigor and demands placed upon teachers and students to get us to a better level, closer to that excellence that we've described? So this is our approach. We're going to recruit and train a talented young group of teachers who hadn't thought previously they were going to be teachers, but who say, okay, I'm in for this project. Our training is intensive. It's pedagogy, teaching practices, but it's also leadership. We see ourselves as cultivating future leaders. I'm naive enough to think that somebody coming to Enseña por Panama is one day going to be the Minister of Education in this country. I have to believe that. And I believe it because I've seen it. It's happening in Peru and in Chile, from programs that are our sister programs. To push a systemic change, an improvement in the educational system and get closer to that standard of excellence, to move it in that direction. So that some of the scores that show up there, the PISA, the CERCE, look at Panama. Wow, significant improvements in 2018, in 2022. How did that happen? It happened because of a lot of people care and a lot of people are working on the issue. This is our approach. This is how we're going to try to do our part to see if this change can start to happen. One of the things that gives me a great deal of confidence is the global network. We are a member now of Teach for All. Teach for All grew out of Teach for America, as I said, and out of Teach First in the UK. These are extraordinary programs. They're all over the world. These are Teach for or Enseña por programs. Particularly for me, those blue dots in Latin America have been a huge help. I've learned a ton from my counterparts in Argentina, in Chile. Last week, I spent 4 days with Enseña por Colombia in Bogotá in their training, and I was blown away by the passion, intelligence, conviction, and the achievements of this program. The Minister of Education called, there are 85 of them, called them to a meeting, said, I need those 85 to come to see me at the ministry, and gave a long talk about what collectively they're trying to do in Colombia, with a huge appreciation for this program. I'm learning a lot from them, and I know that the support that comes from the network is going to help us in Panama to achieve what we dream of achieving. Next slide, please. Some of the people who criticize this approach say, what are you going to do in 2 years? You bring somebody in for 2 years, they teach, they go. And that happens to any number of the participants, from Teach for America to Enseña por Bulgaria to Enseña Australia, or actually there it's Teach for Australia, isn't it? So, but a huge number are staying in the system, or staying in the movement of educational reform. A great number stay in the classroom. A significant number go on to positions of leadership in their schools. They become school directors, school principals, department heads. Others innovating in new ideas for new NGOs to do some of the things that we've been hearing about this evening, that all of your speakers have been talking about, different approaches, different movements coming together around common cause. So I believe that we're going to find some young Panamanians who are thinking of business school, who wind up in education and stay there, and make a life and a career and define their own sort of proyecto de vida, no? To say, education, this is where I belong. This is where I'm needed. The needs are tremendous, and I can be a part of it. Please. Just quickly, this is us. This is what we hope to do, our projection for growth. This year, we have 26 placements that we have negotiated with Meduca for 26 of our first cohort of young Panamanians. They're going to be in Chiriquí and in Panama Centro in some really tough schools. They're not going to have an easy time of it. We're going to train them and support them, and together we're going to try to build something, and we're going to try to inch our way along to some significant changes. 26 in 2016. The following year, we're hoping to have 50 and on to 75 and on to 100, and impacting those young people who we think we can cultivate as great teachers and as leaders in this country, but also impacting the lives of thousands of students. And seeing those kids sitting alone in a classroom saying, "Hoy no vino, tranquilo, está bien." Those kids, it's funny, I sometimes think there's this famous quote about 90% of success in life is just showing up. Right, show up. Get in there, show up, be in the classroom, doing what you can, opening up kids' minds, asking them to be thinkers, asking them to evaluate what they're reading and what they're studying, asking them to work collaboratively to generate knowledge as opposed to copy what's on the board, sit quietly, and we're leaving early today. That's got to change. Next slide, please. Okay, so that's our vision statement. That every child and young person in Panama has the opportunity to receive an education of excellence. An ISP-like education for every kid in this country. Why not? Some of those numbers up there are frightening. We should all say, no way, that can't be this country. Panama's a thriving, growing, changing country in many wonderful ways. This piece has to get caught up. We can't have a middle-income country acting like a poor country in its education system. And part of my great excitement about being here for Tedx and having a reconnection with ISP students is you guys are the future of this. Not me, I'm already pretty old. Retirement age is coming, sadly soon. But you guys are the future of this. And if you're Panamanian, it might be Enseño por Panamá. But if you're Argentinian, Enseña por Argentina. If you're Español, Empieza por Educar. In Spain, phenomenal program, doing this work, this mission, this project, and having tremendous impact for kids who need it. So when I hear the ideas around a Tedx and incredible, innovative ideas and a strong sense of social justice and of doing what's right in the world and leaving your mark, and they say that the millennials are different, that this is a generation more motivated, less by their own sort of personal riches and more by what is my life about? What is my contribution? What is the meaning that I'm going to have and I'm going to give to the world? I think this is the kind of program for you. 2 of our applicants for our first cohort are ISP graduates from the class of 2011. They left here in 2011. They finished college in 2015, this year. They've applied to this program. They could be going off to master's degrees, and they were both U.S. outstanding universities, and they're both saying, I think this might be for me. So I put that out there. I look forward to my next conversations with ISP students, with people sitting here this evening. Together, we have a ton of work to do to make school for kids look a little bit more like it looks here at this amazing school of excellence. I'm doing this because I believe that we can do it. I believe it can happen. It's going to happen slowly, but I believe it can happen. And to be here at ISP talking about it tonight is a huge thrill and huge honor for me. So, thank you.